Hi, my name is Kimberly, and today I'm going to talk to you about the topic of decimal fraction, numeration, and operations. Today we are going to explore two different models that explains decimal place value for students in grades 3 and 4. Two examples of models that explains decimal place value is using a decimal number slider and a decimal number chart. A decimal number slider is an interactive model that can help students with their understanding of multiplying numbers by powers of 10. This is a good activity for students to show that the decimal point stays in the same spot whilst the numbers change value. This is the second number expander that students can use to work out place value in decimals. So this is called a place value slider, where students can use these numbers and the template to slide and create their own decimal numbers. So if we get a student to make any of these numbers, students are able to read what numbers they made.
Thank you.
So here the students have made her number, and now she will be reading her numbers using the place values. So what number have you made?
5 ones, 2 tens, and no hundreds, 6,000s, and no 10,000.
The third model for decimal place value is a chart used for students to expand the decimal number into each individual number through the hundredths place. It provides students with a good visual for each place value column. By choosing this model, the chart helps students achieve their learning by practicing how each number value is broken down into each column, and develops students' mathematical language of how to read decimal numbers in many ways. Oswell's The learning sequence for the topic is identifying different models that students can use to help identify and practice decimal place value numbers, such as using graphs, templates, and models for students to visualize where the ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands numbers are situated in. According to Australian Curriculum Victoria, the scope and sequence level that students start learning fractions and decimals starts at level 1 and ends at level 6. At the start of level 4, the scope and sequence of fractions and decimals have begun by students being able to recognize that the place value system can be extended to tenths and hundredths. It makes connections between fractions and decimal notations. Other than learning decimal place values, students at level 4 will be learning equivalent fractions and locating decimals on a number line. After level 5, the decimal place value system gets taught to students by helping them recognize that the place value system can be extended beyond hundredths. The topic being presented about different models for explaining decimal place value begins at level 4 and 5. Prior knowledge. The important issues for this topic on finding models for explaining decimal place value understands that decimal numbers are simply another way of writing fractions. Students should be able to have the prior knowledge of understanding that the base 10 value system extends in two directions, to small values as well as to large values. By using a decimal place value system, students are able to understand that the decimal point is used to indicate the unit's position. Misconceptions and difficulties. Some of the difficulties or misconceptions in recognizing decimal place value are reading the numbers that have been written. For example, the decimal number of 0.6, by putting 0.6 on the decimal place value chart, the number will be read as 0 ones and 6 tenths. The 0 shows there are no ones, the full stop indicates that the whole numbers have ended, and the 6 is written in the tens place. In contrast, when 6 tenths is incorrectly recorded as 0.6, it is often confused as 6. Learning objective. The learning objective I targeted for my subtopic is students in grade 3 and 4. The knowledge I am hoping to teach students about decimal place value is helping students recognize that the place value system can be extended to tenths and hundredths. It helps make connections between fractions and decimal notation. Other learning objectives for students to learn how to read and write in decimals are students will be able to define equivalent fractions, write mixed numbers as decimals, write phrases as decimal numbers, recognize that decimal numbers change by a factor of 10, recite and write decimal numbers using words, and distinguish between the different values of place value numbers.